Hello everyone. Big event of 2020, the annular solar eclipse at summer solstice point. This is powerful when there's an eclipse exactly in one of the four cardinal points. Last time that happened was in 2001, in June 2001, when we had an eclipse in this degree. And everybody certainly knows what the drastic turn that was in the history on our planet. I guess we can certainly say that. And about the same thing is going to happen in the next few months, however, in a totally different form. It will be literally an amazing ride we are getting into, and I just start you here with the central eclipse chart for Greenwich. Actually, before we go there, I wanted to show you the path of the eclipse here quickly. So here you see that's from Wikipedia, shows you the movement of the shadow the moon leaves on Earth as it comes in front of the sun, and that little dot here that starts at sunrise here over here in Africa, that little dot traveling, that is the core shadow of the sun drawing a line onto the globe. Eclipses are very powerful new moons or full moons, and it is that moment when the balance between light and dark is off, when there's a crack in that balance where something new can seep in. It's really like shifting the direction of evolution, suddenly pulling on the driving wheel. It's like a sudden twist, jerk into a new direction. That's what eclipses are, and each eclipse belongs to a family. This one belongs to a Saros Series 137, which actually started in 1200 or 1389 in May, and that is the chart for Greenwich again for that very first eclipse. So that's the birth chart of this series. Now this will be really important. Keep this in mind. This is the foundation chart. The energies in here are slowly unwinding over the course of 13 centuries. So this eclipse family makes 70 solar eclipses, partial, annular, total, hybrid, you name it, over 13 centuries. And right now we are pretty much at the central point as we are in the middle of these 13 centuries, about pretty much, and that's why the eclipse we have right now is exactly at the nodes. You see it here. That's the heliocentric. Let me go to the geocentric chart. That's the chart I want to show you. See? Sun 021, Moon 021, and the node, the north node, that's where the moon will be exactly in the sun's path, exactly within the ecliptic, the plane where the sun moves in, apparently naturally seen from Earth. As we know, this is just how we experience it, and astrology is working that way. We are at the center of the universe. We have to see how we perceive reality. Like every one of us, we are standing in different places and we are seeing things slightly differently. That's why it is so important to put Earth into the center to understand truly how the influences are here. That's why we do it that way in astrology. So here you have a sun, moon, and the node at 0 degree Cancer. Cancer, the sign of care, of also very lunar, very emotional. It is to find our roots. Cancer is the fourth sign. In that sense, it resonates with the fourth house, which is about the home, the country, history, our roots, our ancestors. So this energy, and it is interesting that the American nation has the sun in Cancer too, so it really resonates with them particularly, and I'll show you a few more details why it is so important for the American states, the United States, this particular eclipse. Let's just go back to the original one, and you see that original eclipse of this series in 1389, that had the moon and the sun at 11-12 degrees Gemini, and that is the descendant of the American chart. If I quickly bring you there, I only have this multiple chart open here. I could open it quickly, it's not a big deal, just give me 1 sec, then you will see. That's the American chart. You see that's the descendant, 13 degrees Gemini. So that means this eclipse family, which this particular one, this annular eclipse of tomorrow, June 21st, is belonging to, is activating the 7th house cusp of the United States chart. That's kind of a basic thing to know. Now we stay here at in the Greenwich chart because I want to look at the global impact this eclipse has, because it's really about uniting us globally. That's really what the bigger picture is, as you will see in a second. So what is interesting is the Leo rising and Aries in midheaven. So it's fire signs. Chiron right in midheaven together with the black moon is very, very strong in that sense that this is the time of looking at the wounds, at all the stuff which has gone wrong, exposing it and dealing with it. That's basically what that Chiron here in midheaven means. It's uncovering, exposing, and inducing healing. It's interesting, just as a side note, in President Trump's solar return chart, his birthday was just a week ago on the 14th. I was writing about that. You will find it on my Celestial Rhythms Facebook page, which the address is below in the comments. So I just want to say his solar return midheaven was exactly at 9 degrees Aries, and that is dead on where Chiron is. So it's interesting that he is kind of the operator, the one who's naturally, as we all know, the one who has brought the ball into rolling, if you want, who brings that whole, is kind of the chief organizer behind the scenes. So the black moon in the 10th house, Uranus in the 10th house, Aries in the 10th house, that's a lot of exposure of things which have gone wrong and which need correction, particularly Aries. And Aries, as we all know, has that powerful square to Pluto and Jupiter, which is pretty much in close orb for 3 years, started 2019 all the way into 2023. You could say even 4 years exact between 2020 and 2022, but within the range definitely for 4 years, which is the breaking open of the shell, you could say. Pluto, the Lord Shiva, the destroyer, the one who really renews everything, first breaks everything down naturally, and then Jupiter lending its expansive energy. So this is a breakdown and renewal. I mean, that whole time we now already have spent in this year, we were under this spell, if you want, of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. So this grand conjunction, if you want, and I spoke about that 5-6 years ago. I said we're in the end of a big cycle, and by December 2020, within now half a year, Jupiter and Saturn will have caught up to each other and start a new cycle at 0 degrees Aquarius. That's really the big marker in time, which will show that we're entering a new time, a new era. So this is the eclipse which leads us into this big change, and naturally it is a powerful eclipse. I just want to now show you the superimposition quickly. First, let's start with that one. So inside you have again the solar eclipse of tomorrow. It's actually only within a few hours now as we do this recording. In the outer wheel you have the original birth chart of this series of 1389. And the central chart is the midpoints between the two, the harmonic midpoints, the time-space midpoint, which is a real moment in time. As you can see, it is December 11, 1704. And it is amazing. Astrology really reveals that everything is still here. All these frequencies are still around because they're connected to where we are. It is like the midpoint of a very long string, if you want, where there's a node in the center, where everything is silent. So it's a central point of observation, and time traveling is in that sense real. I mean, if you have a memory, a strong memory, you're traveling back to that moment when you experience that. That's how it works. It's not that memory is separate from the experience, it's one. So when we have a strong memory, we go back to that moment. So in that sense, we remember collectively this time, December 11, 1704 in the United States. It's the nation's birth chart, resonates with that moment in reference to what is happening right now. So anyway, you see Uranus in this midpoint chart, right on the ascendant. Uranus here is high up in the 10th house. And Uranus here in the base chart is within a strong T-square with Uranus here at 0 degrees Scorpio, Saturn in the last degree of Aries. Then here you have Uranus by midpoints, and here you have Saturn by transit. That's where Saturn is right now. So you have a grand square of Uranus, Saturn, Saturn, Uranus. Now Saturn and Uranus, this is really the critical link, if you want, between old and new, between what was and what will be. And interestingly enough, Chiron is the centaur planet which links the orbits of these two planets. So that was kind of the grand discovery in 1977, to find the first of that family, if you want, of that kind of celestial bodies who do orbit crossing. They have very elliptical orbits. So Chiron goes farther out than Uranus and further closer towards the Sun than Saturn. So that's why Chiron has been also described as that connecting link between the old and the new, the one which brings us through all that process of analysis and understanding what is worth to keep and what is better thrown overboard and left behind in the process of lightening our load and being able to rise higher up. It is really amazing how we have that grand cross here right in the fixed cross with just a little bit of cardinal energy here still from Saturn, aside from all the other cardinal energies naturally which are present. Mars in Aries, Mars here in Cancer, and in the let me just see, where is Mars in the third chart? It's also, no, here it's in Pisces. That's the present chart still. So it is interesting that Mars actually right now is still in Pisces for a week more, and this will be then kind of the time when this new energy fully will start kicking in. It won't start right away. It's still in the, how to say that, it's like those first days when something has to settle and starting to really grip and hold on in every way, and then it has the solidity and the foundation to start fully manifesting. That is when then Mars enters Aries, which is, I guess, at the 28th or so of June. Also, Venus also goes backwards. Here is Venus in the first degrees of Gemini, as you can see, and Venus will turn direct on the 27th. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Also, Saturn will go back into Capricorn on the 30th, and then as we get into July, then we will see really drastic changes starting to manifest. I guarantee you, this is all really lined up in an amazingly powerful way. So let's just look at the midpoint chart, that central chart here you have in this 3-chart overlay, that hinge between this present eclipse and the root chart, and this is the one I have now all by itself. Now this is a very beautiful chart. This is really showing the silent point where we as a global village, if you want, as a collective unity, are experiencing this energy manifesting. We have this Sagittarius Sun opposing Gemini Jupiter and the Moon. So the Moon and Jupiter here in the 10th house opposing the Sun. This is beautiful. And then there's also the North Node here, Juno, asteroid of teamwork, working together. So overall, all this Gemini energy and having the lunar node at present in Gemini too for the next 18 months or so still. So there's the goal, if you want, is towards Gemini. That's where we are working towards. Now the South Node here, interestingly enough, also Chiron again is in play at the South Node conjunct Mercury, and you might remember this is the American nation's ascendant. Just zoom back there quickly to show you 13 degrees 13. That is the chart Dane Rudyard rectified, and it's amazingly accurate. It really works for prediction. So if we go back to this midpoint chart, just bear with me, it's this one here. So here you have Mercury, Chiron, south node in this 13th, 11th degree of Sagittarius. This in itself shows that it's a revisiting the past and resolving and understanding what went wrong and what has to be dealt with in that sense, and then translating this, bringing it down to earth, explaining it to the simple-minded people who have not that ability to see everything all at once. It is a translation into a language everybody understands. That's kind of the opposition of Sag and Gemini in a nutshell. Gemini is the lower mind, Sagittarius the higher mind, or the one more out there, just kind of the university level, and then bringing it down to the street level if you want. Moon Jupiter is showing already the celebration, which soon will be felt, and yeah, it is just a really beautiful chart in many ways. Let me just point a few more things out. 1954 rising here. Again, this is always for Greenwich, which is the Earth's navel. The 0 meridian goes through Greenwich, and Greenwich is interestingly, it's enough, it is an exact septile from the equator, 51 degrees 29 north. I guess it's off by 3 minutes of arc, 51.26, and the fraction, that's the exact septile. So Greenwich, I mean, you could say it was humanly chosen. However, we are part of existence, we are part of creation. So whatever humans add to it is also divinely guided. So that's why this is a really special place on this planet. So 1954, Virgo rising, very closely conjunct Pallas, the asteroid of intelligence, of understanding the concept of art and science, of being able to spin ideas and bring them into higher realms. Now, watch this. This is the ascendant of this global harmonic midpoint, and what you see in the American chart in this degree is the black moon. This is another strong hint that yes, we are dealing with this energy right now. That is globally to be dealt with, and it's just that the United States is spearheading, is going first. Eventually, this will be the entry point for the whole planet to be liberated. We just have to be a little patient. In all the other countries, it will come sooner than later, probably sooner than later. This will be a radical shift we are just getting into. We have no idea yet how powerful this will be. Just want to show you a few more synchronicities here in this 3 chart overlay. So we have midpoint Chiron. No, it is midpoint Chiron is here. Okay, this is the. No, I'm saying it's wrong. I'm mixing it myself up now. So this is the base chart Chiron. Actually, that is something I thought I should point out. In the same position as the transiting Chiron, just by 1 or 2 degrees. That's very, very close. And the midpoint Mars is here. Okay, that is really the activation of that Chironic energy, of that healing energy. I mean, Chiron is a really interesting character. It's a crossbreed of 2 different kinds, and that's why the astronomers first gave it that name out of the Centaur family, because they didn't know what should they call it, an asteroid, or should they call it a comet, because it has a tail. So they were unsure, and because of that dual nature, they chose it, gave it the name of a centaur, naturally Chiron, the most prominent amongst the centaurs. So that's kind of how it got its name, and it proved to be, as always is the case with all the planetary naming, that these names make amazingly sense. It's just unbelievable. It's really the synchronicity of the evolving spirit of our understanding growing into higher dimensions, because each new planet discovered, each new little body brings in a new aspect of who we are into our consciousness, brings it into the light, makes it possible to see it and to liberate it in that sense. So then, okay, let me show you a few more things. So right, just bear with me for 1 second. Right here, okay, yeah, that's the one I wanted to show you, the black moon here, 18 degrees 48 Sagittarius. That's now again the base chart of that series, and guess what, it's squaring the 19 degrees Virgo. So this is even we have to look for these things, these doubling up of same energies. That's really what is important, because you will always find correlations, but you need to have them backed up by a second one, and this is clear. This links into this black moon of the United States at 19 degrees Virgo, 19 degrees just shy of that in Sagittarius. And then here we have Pallas again. Well, I don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole here with you, just wanted to point these things out. So in general, we are just starting to see big breakthroughs. It will take a few more days till Mars is getting into Aries, but as soon as Mars is in its own sign, and it will be in that sign for a long time, because Mars will turn retrograde, I guess it's in late August, and then go back to the early degrees of Aries and not leave this sign before late in fall. I would have to look it up, but it will be in Aries an unusually long time of at least 3 or 4 months. That is transiting Mars naturally. That would be here in the innermost chart, and if you go back to that one. But I leave it at this. Just I will make a second video probably tomorrow showing you the alignments for Washington DC. I just didn't want to load this one too much with different information, so let's keep it at that. Thank you for joining and listening, and if you liked it, give it a like and share it and subscribe. Thank you. Have a lovely annular eclipse event.